Hello and welcome to Design Northeast. I'm John Devlin and I'm going to take you through the fourth and fifth parts of the National Design Guide training session. So this is the fourth instalment of a training package on the National Design Guide. We had planned to hold a Northeast Learning Workshop at the Toffee Factory in the Ousburn, but this had to be postponed because of the disruption caused by the coronavirus. Places affect us all. They're where we live, work and spend our leisure time. Well-designed places influence the quality of our experience as we spend time in them and move around them. This design guide, the National Design Guide, illustrates how well-designed places that are beautiful, enduring and successful can be achieved in practice. This slide rehearses our objectives for the learning programme and you'll be familiar with this already. There are 7 parts to this learning programme. Part 4, highlighted here, is the one we're going to focus on today, which is about homes and buildings, resources, and lifespan. In previous sessions, Tony Wyatt has already introduced the 10 characteristics of a well-designed place. You'll be familiar with the diagram by now, and I'll continue in this module and look at homes and buildings, resources, and the lifespan. As we have said, the 10 characteristics of well-designed places are at the heart of the guide. They represent outcomes, the things we expect to see in a place that works for people, a place that's successful. The guide does not talk too much about how you get these outcomes, that's very much left to you, and we'll explore more of that in this session. The 3 subsections regarding homes and buildings are summarised in the bullet points on this slide: internal and external environments, private, shared and public spaces, operation and servicing. This is about quality of life for the occupants, particularly of housing, but also for workplaces. The designer should not simply be thinking about their brief to get a certain number of homes with a certain number of bedrooms within a given area. They should walk through the experience of living in that place to make sure it works for the people. This subsection also talks about well-designed homes and buildings being efficient to run, increasingly important as we move towards carbon neutrality. They maximise natural ventilation, avoid overheating, minimise sound pollution and have good air quality. The diagram shows the key aspects to be considered when designing new homes. On the left, we see a well-designed and naturally lit internal space with views out. That's from Horsley in Seaford. On the right, an internal habitable rooms that have high levels of natural daylight and connect well to the gardens and terraces. This is from Accordia at Cambridge. This slide is about the quality of internal and external spaces. External space includes private spaces, gardens and balconies. Shared space, lobbies, corridors, landings, shared gardens and courtyards. When we review higher density flatted developments, we're often looking closely at the journey from the street to the front door of the apartment. For example, does it involve long, narrow corridors without daylight? Do private spaces have reasonable privacy? The relationship between private or shared spaces and public spaces is important. How are the boundaries designed? What are the thresholds like? In the public spaces section, we look at the importance of active edges and overlooking. Obviously, in designing buildings, we need to look at how they can bring these qualities and others to the public space. H3, attention to detail. If wheelie bins are the answer, what on earth was the question? Maybe one solution doesn't fit all. Details about how buildings, particularly homes, are to be serviced can be critical to whether they are successful, and that includes local waste storage, management and pickup, refuse bins for all the different types of collections, including landfill, recycling and food waste. They are accessible and well integrated into the design of streets, spaces and buildings to minimise visual impact, unsightliness and avoid clutter. Where refuse bins are required to be on the street frontage or on a location that is visible from the street, they are sited within well-designed refuse stores that are easy for occupants to use. Services, including utilities and window cleaning, simple electric lighting and water systems, are discreet and well-designed, or should be. They should be easy to access, clean and maintain. Exterior details such as drain pipes, gutters and meter boxes should be integrated into the wider design to avoid a cluttered appearance. Cycle storage should be conveniently positioned, sensitively integrated into public spaces, amenity space or the buildings themselves. Now, resources. This is one of the sections that most directly addresses the client emergency. The subsections focus on reducing energy consumption, the use of materials in construction, and resilience, for example, against extreme weather associated with climate change. Subsection R1 explains a hierarchy of actions that need to be incorporated into energy strategies for new buildings. Firstly, reducing the need for energy in the first instance, for example, through well insulating the walls and structure and fabric of the building. Secondly, ensuring that technology within the building is energy efficient in itself. Thirdly, using your renewables where possible. And ultimately, if all these are not possible, using fossil fuels in the cleanest way possible. But this will increasingly not be available as an option as regulations change to meet carbon neutral targets. In the illustrations here on the left, an old chocolate factory has been converted into apartments with new housing alongside the original building. This compact development is located close to a train station and local facilities, so it's quite efficient in terms of travel and transportation. That's the Chocolate Quarter from Keynsham. Top right, a social housing development that sits well in the local urban context and meets high environmental standards. This is the award-winning Goldsmith Street scheme in Norwich. And bottom right, a community self-build project with a range of house types and a commitment by residents to support and live to environmental values at Ashley Vale Self-Build in Bristol. This subsection emphasises that the selection of materials and the type of construction influence how energy efficient a building or place can be and how much embodied carbon it contains. Reusing buildings and materials on site reduces embodied carbon. Ensuring developments are robust and adaptable so they will not have to be redeveloped for a long time also helps reduce long-term energy consumption. New construction technologies, such as off-site manufacture, may help in improving energy efficiency and productivity, as well as the energy efficiency of the new homes themselves. The illustration is of some modular homes built through factory production with minimum on-site construction time from New Islington in Manchester. The final subsection talks about how buildings and spaces can be designed to take account of prevailing and forecast environmental conditions, temperature extremes in summer and winter, increased flood risk, and more intense weather events such as rainstorms. Aspects they suggest to be considered include the layout and aspect of internal spaces, insulation of the external envelope and thermal mass, management of solar gain, and, of course, natural ventilation. There's a lot of overlap with the nature section here, as the guide talks about how nature-based systems, including sustainable drainage, can achieve these objectives, help to embed resilience. The images here on the left is the Home for All Seasons winning entry in the Sunday Times Resilient Home Competition by the Environmental Design Group and JTP, and on the right there's a flood resilient housing scheme being designed by BAC Architects for a site in Stratford upon Avon. Now, moving on to lifespan. We want places to last so we don't have to redevelop them within a short time period with all the physical, economic and social disruption that involves. The key themes of this section are management and maintenance of building spaces and places, adaptability, so the places can change and gradually without comprehensive development, and finally, sense of ownership so that people care for their buildings and spaces. Well-designed places are robust, durable, and easy to look after. They are designed so management and maintenance responsibilities are clearly defined for all parts of a development. That means thinking about these issues as part of the design process, not as an afterthought. Including the things that always give us headaches, like local waste, cleaning, parking, internal common spaces, shared spaces, and public spaces. Design out the problems before they manifest themselves. If we can plan to involve communities in the management and maintenance, there's more chance it will be a successful development. We also need to consider how major and long-term maintenance tasks, such as the replacement of cladding, will be managed, or whether they can be avoided in the first instance. Buildings and places need to adapt to the changing needs of users over time. There are different cycles of change. The use of a building is often the easiest thing to change. That can happen more easily and more often. A good example is the slightly larger 19th century houses often found just on the edge of a town and city centre, like the illustration on the right. Probably originally built as family houses for the better off, they are capable of providing offices for professionals such as accountants, solicitors. Sometimes they're converted into bedsits or flats and can often end up being gentrified and returning to their original use. These buildings allow the town centre, the central business district, to expand and contract without the need for massive redevelopment. The illustration on the right, a corner house with an annex, provides options for multi-generational living. It's a positive response to a corner site in a terraced housing layout in a modern development. That's from Chobham Manor in Stratford in London. Well-designed places clearly define the boundaries for private, shared and public spaces, making it more likely that occupants will value and take ownership of them. They include features that encourage users to really care for them. Community management and maintenance of shared amenities such as halls and gardens is more likely to be a success when the future community is involved in the design process from the start. On the left, the illustration is a large site that's been allocated for self and custom build with affordable plots provided new options for housing delivery, as well as affordable homes and some apartments for sale. This embeds home ownership in the design process from the start and ensures the homes are fit for their needs. This is from Graven Hill in Bicester. On the right, there's an illustration of a communal green overlooked by neighbouring homes, which is a place for the local community to come together. This is from the Triangle at Swindon. In the next training session, I'll look at the components of a well-designed place. Until then, thanks for listening. Bye.